So in activity 4.6, we're going to solve quadratic equations by using the quadratic formula. So let's start with an example. The following table details, the year and the number of motorcycle deaths in that particular year from 1991 to 2000. And we're asked to use our graphing calculator to create a scatter plot of the data in the preceding table. Right? And we're going to let X represent the number of years since 1990. So we're going to pull our calculator out. And in Canvas, I've posted the steps for creating a scatter plot and quadratic regression. That document looks like this. So if you want to print this document out and follow along, that's fine, because we're really going to go through steps 1 through 9 to create the scatter plot. And then we're going to go through steps 13 through 19 to come up with a regression line. Okay, so again, maybe you want to print this Word document out. It will be posted in Canvas. I'll probably save it as a Word and a PDF document, and then you can follow along. Okay, so if 1990 represents 0, 1991 would be 1, this would be 2, 3, 4 years after 1990, and so on. So first we're going to press the STAT key. Then we're going to press number 1 for edit. And see, I have data in here. So I'm going to want to clear this data. So if I hit the up arrow and I highlight L2 and I press clear, don't press delete, but I do want to press the clear key and then press enter. It clears all of my data. And I'm going to do the same thing for L1. I highlight L1, I press the clear key, I press enter, and my data is clear. So now, 1991 represents 1 year after 1990. 1992 represents 2 years, and so on. And we're going to go all the way up to 2000. And for L2, we're going to take the number of motorcycle deaths. So that's the 711, 638, and so on. So here's the data for the rest of my table. So we've completed steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on this handout. So now we'll take a look at steps 6 through 9. So I press the Y equals key, and I'm going to highlight the plot 1. So I press the up arrow, I press enter, so plot 1 is now turned on. And we make sure there's nothing in our Y1 and Y2. This is all clear, so we're looking good there. Now I press the zoom key and number 9, because we're doing a stat plot. So there's our scatter plot. So when I go back to question 1A, it says use your graphing calculator to create a scatter plot. We've done that. Now if you want to sketch that here, that's fine. I'm not going to actually sketch this by hand, but essentially you'd want to sketch what you see on your viewing screen in this area. Question 1b says this data can be modeled from the function, and then they give us the function. But I want to actually see if we can recreate this function using our calculator. So again, take out our calculator, and then let's go back to our regression handout sheet. We're going to want to complete steps 13 through 19 to get that quadratic regression. Again, this document can be found in Canvas, and you can print it out and follow along. So I press the STAT key. I press the right arrow, because we want to calculate something. We want to calculate the quadratic regression. That's number 5. And remember, our data is in L1 and L2. So if I press the second and the 1 key, there's L1. I press the comma key. I press second and the 2 key, there's my L2. I press the comma key, I press the VARS key, right arrow to highlight Y variables, and then I'll press 1 because it is a function, and I want to put my answer in Y1. So there it is, quad regression. My data is coming from L1 and L2. I want to post my equation into Y1. I press enter. And if you take a look, you'll notice when you look at the equation in the book, we have n equals 6.875x squared. Well, there's my 6.875. Minus 80.76. There's my minus 80.7, and they rounded, right? 758. They called it 76. And then the last piece was this 791. There's the 791. So we just verified that this equation is correct. If I press the graph key, it will actually put that line through all of the dots. And you'll notice this is similar to what is the picture in the book for question 1B, right? This graph here looks like this. So I feel pretty good that we've done this correctly. So question 1C says, okay, you want to know in what years the model predicts the number of deaths of motorcycles age 30 to 39 will be approximately 1,000. So remember, this equation, the n represents the number of deaths, and the x represents the number of years since 1990. So in question 1C, we know the number of deaths. It's 1,000. So I'm going to place the 1,000 in for n, and we have to solve for x. So this is the equation we'd have to solve to determine the year, or the number of years after 1991 it will take to get to 1,000 motorcycle deaths. Now this would be very difficult to solve by hand, right, because of the x squared and the other x. We could solve this graphically, right? We could graph both sides of the equation, and the intersection would give me an answer. So let's do that. I take my calculator, I go back to y equals. I'm going to turn my stat plot off. We no longer need this. All right, so here's my equation for that parabola, and then for y2, I'm going to enter the 1,000. Okay, so that's the left side of my equal sign. And here's the right side of my equal sign. Now let's make sure our window is okay, right? Because my y2 is going to give me a straight line at 1,000. So I want to make sure my y2 goes to at least, or my y max is at least bigger than 1,000. So I'll go 1,200. My y minimum, I mean, I can start at 0, that's fine. And then for my x max, well, x min will start at 0. And for my x max, I'm going to go out, say, 25. And let's take a look to see what that graph looks like. All right, here's my parabola. And here is my line that's intersecting. And it looks like we're going to actually have two intersections. It's going to intersect here and somewhere on this side of my calculator. So I'm going to change my window a little bit. Instead of starting at 0, I'm going to actually go out to, say, negative 25. Okay, so there's my new window. I press graph, and now I believe we should see both intersections. All right, there's the parabola, and there is my line. So this intersection is really going to have no meaning to us, right? Because remember, we're looking for number of deaths after 1990. So this point here, when x is 0, would be 1990. So we're really looking for this intersection. But nonetheless, I want to get both values. So we're going to press the second key. We press the trace key. Number 5 for intersection. This is my first curve. That's my second curve. And where do I think my answer is? See, if I just press enter now, it's going to give me this intersection. Right? So it says this is happening at x equals negative 2.18. But we're not really looking for that because that would be before 1990. So if I press second and the trace key again, and number 5 for intersection, right, again, we have the first curve, our second curve. Now for our guess, I want to move my cursor to where I think the answer is, right? That's somewhere over here. I press enter and say, okay, Mike, this is happening at 13.9. So we can call that 14 years after 1990, or we can call this 2004. So our model is going to predict in 2004 there'll be 1,000 motorcycle deaths. Right, so that's us solving the problem graphically. In the next video, we're going to use the quadratic formula to solve the same equation, and we should get the same answer.